Hi, this is Jeannie with my perpetual project. Today we're going to make a self-binding flannel blanket. The size we're making today is for a baby. It'll be a receiving blanket size, but I've made these all different sizes and it works just as well with the larger fabric as it does the small. The top of the fabric is 30 inches by 30 inches and the back of the fabric is 40 inches by 40 inches. The back of the fabric is normally plain. You can see this is patchwork. I made a patchwork because I accidentally cut this fabric too short. So now this will be the top fabric and this will be the back. This blanket goes together really quickly, especially if you're not doing patchwork, so that takes some time. A quicker way to cut your squares is to use a cutting ruler. So I'm going to measure out 4.5 inches, lining it up so that it's nice and square, and using my rotary blade. In case you're wondering, I do have a cutting table, but I find it easier to work on the floor. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So once you have them cut one way, turn and cut the other. You can also stack your flannel. My blade is not super sharp, so I'm going to do them individually. So I will continue cutting. As you can see, I have several pieces cut already. Now that I have all of the squares cut, I'll be sewing them together. I normally do that row by row, and I'll pin each row first. I'll do one row at a time, lay it back down so that I keep the pattern the way it's supposed to be. Once all the rows are sewn together, I'll be pressing all the seams flat, and then we'll put the front, this will be the back, so we'll be putting the front on, and then we'll be sewing the front to the back. The first step is to find the center of all 4 sides and mark it with a pin. This will be going right sides together with the back. So fold it right sides together and mark it with a pin. And you'll do that on all 4 sides of both pieces. Once you have a pin in the center of each side on both pieces of fabric, you're going to line those pins up together and start pinning. And you'll pin from center to the side on all 4 sides, and when you get to the edge, you're going to want to pin a 1/4 inch from the edge. So you'll pin all along the side up to a 1/4 inch from the edge. When all 4 sides of your blanket are pinned together, it's going to look like this. You're going to have these little loose areas that will become your corners, and the back is bigger than the front. So don't be concerned if it looks a little bit wonky. So now we're going to start stitching a 1/4 inch from the edge all the way along on all 4 sides. On one of the sides, you're going to want to leave an opening about yay so, maybe 4 inches, so you can turn your blanket inside out after we finish the stitching. To stitch the top fabric to the backing, you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam. So you'll stitch from one edge, a 1/4 inch from the edge, all the way along one side, and then starting on the second side, you'll start also at a 1/4 inch from the edge and stitch along the next side and continue that on all 4 sides. Remember to leave about a 4-inch opening on one of the sides for turning. So we're going to stitch the sides, then we're going to focus on the corners. I've brought you in closer so you can see what I'm going to do to make the corners. What you want is to fold these 2 sides together. So you catch in this corner piece here. Just fold those together. Line them up. And then to get your 90-degree angle, you're going to lay your ruler so it goes along this fold line. The straight edge along your stitching. My stitching ends right here. And then take a fabric pencil or a regular pencil or fabric chalk, which is what I'm going to use, and mark your edge. And once your edge is marked, pin the 2 sides together. Stitch along the line, and then you can cut off your edge. What I like to do, I base this stitch, turn it right side out just to verify, then put a regular line of stitching on it, and then I trim it. So we're going to pin all 4 sides, stitch them, check them, and then trim them. Once you've sewn your corner, you're going to want to trim it off at a 1/4 inch. You want to reduce the bulk so that you have nice clean corners. Trim it off, then find your opening and start pulling your corners right side out. As you do so, you can make sure that you've got a nice crisp corner there. Once you have your blanket turned inside out, right side out, you can go through and make sure that the corners are nice and pressed out. So now that we have our blanket turned right side out, we're going to press it with an iron, all nice and even. Press it with an iron, and then we're going to stitch between the binding and the top piece of fabric to hold the 2 pieces together, to hold the front to the back. And while we do that, we're going to catch our opening in our stitches. You'll want to use a zigzag or a decorative stitch, something that will go between the backing, which is now the binding, and the front. So you'll stitch along that, and then your blanket is finished. So I'm going to grab the iron and press it flat, and then I'll show you the top stitching. All you need to do to press the binding is just lay it flat so the corners are pressed out, and just press it from the top out. get to the opening, you can pin it to hold it in place. Here is the completed blanket. The patchwork looks good around the edges. Some of the corners came out pretty good. But there are corners where patchwork doesn't line up, but since it's patchwork, probably no one else will notice. Here's the stitching that I decided to use to catch both the binding and the top piece. And here's how it looks on the back. Since it's the same color, it's a little hard to see. There you go. So when you make your flannel blanket, good luck. I hope my instructions are nice and clear. Leave any questions in the comments, and I'll leave a link to a blog post with written instructions. For more project ideas, head on over to myperpetualproject.com. Thanks for watching.